Hello YouTube, this is Carl, that BMX guy. So today, I'm going to actually make adapters. Now I already made adapters, rack adapters to be exact, rack adapters, for the SNS Speedwagon I was using for touring. So I want to use the standard 125R. I already have the front rack for its basket, or Swift bag, the headlight, dynamo, but now I just gotta work on the rear. So I'm basically gonna mount this Ibera rack on here, like I had on the Speedwagon, where the front of it just has that yoke that goes around the seat post, and the bottom is gonna have adapters. But these adapters just won't work with these dropouts. There's just not enough length. So the easiest way to show you the length of the dropout is to probably pull this guy off. So the easy way is to have bolts, like so. You don't even have to really mess with them. So the dropout is very short. So if you look at the length of this, it's a little bit longer than that. But there's this little piece right here, this half moon piece. It's on both sides that pushes the wheel back a little bit, which will work fine if the wheel is back that much further back. But it isn't. It's kind of in the middle of the dropout. And the half moon would be probably rubbing against the front of the bearing spacer that you can see easier with this hub. There's like a bearing spacer, and it pushes the wheel, and pretty much you don't even use a chain tensioner with the Speedwagon, all because of that little spacing. But anyway, this needs to be an adapter similar to this, but I'm actually going to draw a hole maybe right here, an M5 hole. And the M5 hole can either be universal, where it actually mounts this rear fender. Yeah, then we go these struts, brackets. So I'd have to use longer struts, obviously, but if they mounted straight to the frame, it'd be better than this P-clamp. So I'm thinking a hole like right here would be perfect. So I got the paper, scissors, and I already started doing that, so we got a general idea what's going to go there. This is going to sit there, like so. Try to make it look even. But what it ends up doing is it adds a layer to the dropout, and you can just bolt it there and it won't move. I marked a little bit of a indentation with this one to be at the same height. It can probably be a little bit higher, but then the rack is really high. So if you notice that there's a hole, and this is as far up as it goes. So I don't really want it to be higher, because this is really high. But this is what I'm going to start out with. Kind of looks like a little dude nomming on things. Like, rah. Nom, nom, nom. It's not much different from that one. That one has a straighter back part. Maybe it's all I'll do is make that straighter right there. But I kind of want it to be laying against the weld. We'll see. Because I can always make that part, this part that kind of angles out, just a straight cut. And then it would just look like a skinnier guy. That's all. This is just basically what I did with that one. There's nothing different. I just used this, put on a piece of tape, and then outlined it on the piece of tape, and then just cut it out. And that's how this is going to go. This might be a multiple day project, in the sense that this is a Sunday, Father's Day of all days. I'll cut out the 2 plates, but I might have to drill them out and drill out the holes in the dropouts some other day. But anyway, here's the start of the video. So let's get this moving. Before I even go, so this is a plate of stainless steel. I was using this for the light mount on the front rack. It's a pain in the ass to drill through, but it cuts pretty easy as far as with the saw. Stainless steel will rust. It's not much stronger than that stuff. That's just raw steel. So you have non-rusting metal that's the same thickness. It's like an 1/8 inch thick. So anyway, I'll go out in the shed and start cutting this thing and get started. Okay, so I drilled holes to start all things. Pilot holes for the bigger holes. That's where I kind of like drew the line on just using raw steel versus stainless steel. Because this is a 1/8 inch piece of raw steel like I used with the other adapters. So that was a change. These drill bits I have just cannot drill through stainless steel straight. I would have to have a drill press too, maybe that would help. But I'm doing a hand drill from the 70s with drill bits that are cheap and junk. So yeah, this is much easier to drill through. So we're just going to use the 1/8 inch raw steel. When I started, they drilled right where I posted them, so that's good. Make them a little bit bigger, then start cutting that thing. And maybe I'll just show you it cut. So, I don't know. So without much fight, the Black & Decker bits drilled right through this guy. So it kind of looks like a ghost at the moment. But now I just got to cut all the lines. And then I got to do a second one. So there we are, we got the raw cut. Raw drilled. How to clean it up, make it look pretty. I still have to make another one, so maybe I'll just trace that out and do another one too. And I'll have 2 raw cuts and just like, you know, make them look the same after that. Anyway, yeah. First one wasn't that long, maybe an hour hand cutting and starting the holes with Dremels and cutting again, cutting again. I still gotta grind it. That's another probably 30 minutes. We'll see. Let's just make the second one first so I feel like I'm progressed a little more. Then there was 2, another hour later. So we got raw. So we got the Mr. Do Munchers. Yeah. So just cut the edges on these and take the tape off that one. And I'll show the finished product. At least that far. So here we have the 2 final pieces. So this is the original design, sort of. It's like rounder. I just cut the top a little bit more, and I try to get so they're kind of exactly the same. So they're close enough. I mean, they're close enough for me. They might seem better when they're on top each other perfectly, but yeah. This is just a prototype. I made the axle size a little bit too big, but you know, I can always make that 14mm or something, or some other kind of thing. But I got 2 rack dropout adapters right here, and time to put them on. So I'm here at the shop, drilling the holes. That one's already done. We got the threaded hole, all that stuff. I just gotta do the other one, and then you'll see me back home. Alright, so dropout savers are cut out. This is a 1-day video, but yesterday at the shop I drilled these holes and threaded them. Got some M5 bolts. These are just stainless steel bolts. I use this thread lock compound, you know, red. That way they can't move. And they're going to just replace these, and then I'm going to have to just take all this hardware, get daffing on there, and other things. So I have a seat clamp somewhere that I don't know if I brought with me, but we will if I have it. Let's do some live action working. So let's get this off here. Anyway, yeah, Let's just unthread this. And just leave the wheel on there. Why even bother? Down there. So this should just go right on, like so. No issues. Now I made it so it actually has some more dropout from the back. So it was a little bit longer than the actual dropout. To make it so I can use a clam pop chain tensioner I normally use. These are fine, but you know, I don't really like carrying a 3mm Allen wrench. They're both the same. This is probably the better looking one I can put on this side. Maybe clean up the hole a little bit more, but you know, it's just to go on there. And it's just going to hold that bolt on the end. Now this bolt may see usage of a, a fender mount bolt. But at the moment, I don't think I got necessary parts. I got some parts. I got the Vila orange loop bolt for the fender, and I got these, the P-clamps, but I need the actual hoops, and they're on the way. I'm going to just convert these fenders to those hoops because I don't like these little plastic clips. They just either they pop off easily, or I know their intention is for safety, but you know, when this fender messes with stuff, it doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't seem useful. I think I'd rather have to loop around. It seems stiffer. This seems to wag too much. And even if I hook these up straight to this, it'd probably be better than the way it is now with these P-clamps here. The rack hooking to an extra dropout instead of straight to here means it's putting more load bearing on the actual axle, not just this little tiny bolt. I think I'd rather the axle take the weight, not just a little tiny M5 bolt. I seem to be repeating myself with that, but that's just how I look at it. I think it's a better torsion strength to have a bigger bolt holding things that have a lot of weight than a tiny thing. So let me get some thread lock on this and I'll put the camera back on. Okay, so that's on there. It kind of just stays in place. The welds kind of hold it centered. It's just snugged on there a little bit. This is the Quam Pop Quam makes flatland parts. At least they did. They used to make these little chain tensioners. This used to be a 14mm to 3/8 adapter. Now it's just a 3/8 chain tensioner. I found these to be very useful throughout the years, but we're going to use this instead of the JW one because I just like having an easy to use 10mm wrench versus a little tiny Allen wrench. Yeah, so get this on here. I gotta adjust it a little bit. I might have to adjust it a lot. But yeah, the idea is that the chain tensioner like this can be used that has a lot more, you know, adjustment. It's also simpler, comes off easier, does a lot more for me. So now the chain probably is right where it needs to be. I don't think I really got to adjust that at all. But we'll just make sure it's tight and then just tighten the bolt. Right. That's pretty much there. The chain might be too tight, so I'm just going to fine tune that in a second. There we have it. There we have it. That's tightened up. That's all tightened up. That's all tightened up. So that's drive side. Drive side is done. Now do the other side. The other side has another bolt, some more thread lock, and we'll get that on there, and I'll show you in a second. Yeah, so I had to take it down. It's just a little easier to take it down. Yeah, so we'll get this side off. This side's a lot less work. There's no chain. But what's nice about bolts is that you can just do this. You know, you just unthread them and just pull it all the way off. I could have made these captured where there's nothing. This is the hole with a captured end. That could have worked, but I just wanted to be able to pull the wheel off quickly. Yeah, it's kind of what I like to do with thread lock. I think the red thread lock is probably the best choice for this. So let's get that started. Get this bolt back on. So with this side, it doesn't really have any preciseness to it. But you can see how they make an extra hole, and it puts it so the rack actually sits kind of further back, not further forward, so the panniers are more away from my feet. That was kind of why I made the back ends longer on my frames in the first place. It just makes the bikes longer. Well, duh. But the rack being further back makes it so the panniers are further back. Now you may say that it might make it want to power wheel easier, but there's plenty of weight on the front. Like there's a lot more weight on the front of the BMX. The steel forks and bars add plenty of weight. That dynamo hub, that's another 2 pounds normally than a normal hub has, because it's, you know, a motor pretty much, an alternator on the front wheel. So there's plenty of weight on the front to keep the weight kind of balanced in the back. It's not like a Bike Friday where the Bike Friday there's no weight on the front at all. So if you have weight on the back, it just really feels like crap. This actually feels fine. So let me tighten up this bolt. It's just a 4mm. I'm going to probably add washers when I find them, but for the video they're just going to be like this. Also, what may happen is that I take these bolts out and put longer ones for these, but that's out of the way. Let's make sure this brake is right where it needs to be. So what's nice is that when you have a nice custom-made frame and it's new and the wheel is perfectly straight, you shouldn't really need to do any adjustment to get that wheel to center on that brake or the frame or anything. So yeah, that's done. So now we have the rack. With the adapters that are already on it, they got to come off. I have it set so there's these washers that kind of help make it sit straight, because this is a 135 back end rack, so these washers kind of help keep it straight. It's not going to take too much effort. Let's just go right on. So we got to take these off, and once I get these off, I'll come back. Okay, so they're off. So these are like titanium bolts. We got 3 stainless washers, a stainless washer, and a nylock nut. These are the other ones that I was using with the Speedwagon, which are kind of probably lighter because there's a lot less meat to them, but they were basically the same, just this part slid in to drop it all the way forward, and since the Speedwagon's dropouts were longer, this kind of worked out pretty good. There's no real dropout length on these guys, on this frame anyway. On other frames it would be, I don't know, but yeah. So we have the rack. The rack will sit kind of right here, and it will sit outside of the fender, and the front will be like that. And you know, yeah, I might still have to adjust the front of the rack a little bit. So let me get all that set up. Anyway, let me get the bolts on here, and I'll be back. Okay, so we got the seat post out. Cleaned up the seat post, make sure it's not galling against the frame. I cleaned up the frame itself. I put some grease inside the seat tube. And we have this Shadow Conspiracy clamp that I'm just going to put right here. So what does this do? It's going to hold and scratch the living crap out of my seat post. So how about we just put where's the max height? Put this like right about here. So that's where it's going to be. Slide that guy up there. It's kind of hard to move. There is grease on there too. But okay, so what's going to happen is that this is just to hold the top of the adapter on that rack adapter right there on. And I'm just going to flip it all into place and put it on there. That's going to take more than 2 hands, and yeah, I'll show you it when it's done. Okay, so got this on there, slid it all on. I loosened everything up to make it so it aligns good. And I just try to get that to be as level as I can get it. You can always just use a level, but this house might not be level. That might not help too much. It kind of looks probably a little too this way, you know, more angled toward the front. But you know, it's probably better that way anyway. It just makes it so the weight doesn't want to push the thing off. You know what I mean? This is what the C-clamp is doing. It's kind of just keeping this from wanting to go up. This will just clamp around the seat tube. It's 28.6, so it's just a little bit bigger than 27.2. It would probably go right against this, but I'm not putting it right against the frame. There's just no way. The seat post, I trust to handle it more than the frame will. As far as this little clamp holding it, well, this clamp will keep it from wanting to slide down anyway. Even this clamp seems to hold pretty good. As long as it doesn't break the keyhole, we're good. I can always cut that slot further down, you know, and make it even lower if I have to. Because you can do that as long as it doesn't break here. But the seat post goes pretty far in there. It's like down to there, down to right around here. So it's not like it's not reinforcing that tube or anything. It's gonna snug up all the bolts, and then I'll show this outside in the next section. So here we are in the daytime. So yeah, the mounting was fine. I actually changed the fender mount struts to just be a single that just bolts right into here. This seems to be pretty stiff, but I'm still going to upgrade it eventually. The rack mount on there pretty even. I think it's pretty level. And the bike is ready for some bike camping. I changed the gear ratio, I think, to 42/14. But yeah, I'd say that the rack mounted pretty good. The new adapters look pretty sturdy, and eventually maybe I'll paint them when I paint the frame. Or just leave them. But the way I have it is that the fender can stay mounted to the dropout when there's no rack. Anyway, this is That BMX Guy, and thanks for watching.